Yes, guys, hello and welcome back to the Spurs-related YouTube channel and podcast. I hope everyone is doing very well on this Friday evening. Today, we have a very quick 30 to 40-minute show on Tottenham Hotspur and the Slavia Prague match that happened earlier on this week, a 3-0 win in the Champions League. And we are on a 2-win streak, believe it or not, despite the feel-good factor still not... it's quite far from being back, if I'm being honest. And we are also going to look ahead to the game at Nottingham Forest on Sunday, which will be a tough game against what is a revived Nottingham Forest since Ange Postecoglou was sacked as such a small tenure at the club. But as you can see, we've got a nice little panel for you guys tonight. We have, of course, Thomas Frank's AI son, Frank Thomas, all the way from Ali Pali, pretty much. I think he's only just crawled back from seeing Luke Littler and co. It is, of course, Frank Thomas. Frank, mate, how are you doing, mate?
I'm all right. I've had a dull day after last night of citing university readings, which I'm not sure if anyone in this chat would resonate with that, but it's been a dull day. So I'm quite looking forward to talking about Tottenham and decompressing slightly.
Sounds good, mate. Good to have you back. Of course, good. It's good for us to be back. Apologies as well, guys. Again, we said we'd be back more active, but we are back now. We are going to be back regular. I don't think we have done a live stream for around a week. So apologies. Well, about 6 days. So apologies for the lack of content. But as you can see, we're also joined alongside. I don't know how to always. I mean, I've bottled it now. I was going to say chief of Twitter or X or something, but I didn't want to cringe you out, Bill. But it is, of course, Billy T, who is on a lot of these podcasts nowadays and getting quite a taste for it. Bill, how are you doing, mate? Good to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good, man. Pleasure to be back on with you guys. I love this channel and feeling a little bit better. I've been a bit underwhelmed with Thomas Frank lately, been a bit down in the dumps, like you hinted at earlier, but nice couple of weeks. Nice, starting that Newcastle game, coming up to the Prague game. So, yeah, let's hope. I think this is a real test, though, this weekend. So, be interested to see what happens next.
100%, mate. Yeah, thanks. Great to have you on. And, yeah, it's been pretty dire under Thomas Frank in the last few weeks. I think I was having a conversation with Frank on the phone the other day. Our motivation sort of aligns with sort of with everyone at the moment, in terms of even wanting to watch the games and go into the games. Like, people can't give away tickets. It's absolutely crazy. I declined 2 free tickets the other day. I mean, I feel so bad for doing it, but
mate,
I just can't bring. Go on, mate.
I'm the same. I get a few messages on Twitter saying, "Can you push these tickets out for free?" And people aren't even taking them for free, mate. So yeah, it's been crazy. A bit dire. But the football can change very quickly, right? If we,
sure.
we get a win this weekend, then after the back of the last couple of results, I think things will really start turning up.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. Then probably back selling for the overpriced prices of £70 to £100. You can't even call it Levy land anymore. But anyway, we will get into things. We will invite some people into the chat. Of course, if you are watching live, please make sure you are doing those 3 favors, which is smashing the like button down below, subscribing if you are new, and turning on the notification bell as well. But Logan's in here, as always. I think you're top of the list of the Spurs relatables at the moment, Logan. Says, evening, fellas. Big up to you, both of you. And sorry, big up to Billy T as well. Big up, Logan. Thanks for joining, mate. We've also got Karaluka77. I'm trying to work out what your profile picture is. It always interests me, the profile pictures. Any idea what that is, guys? Maybe you can help me. I ain't got a clue.
Is there a cat involved there, maybe?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was thinking like
curtain.
Yeah, it's like a curtain, isn't it? Anyway, Karaluka, put us out of our misery, but thanks for joining. And it's good
Called
to
it right
see
with the cat. I can see that cat in there. I knew it was in there.
From South Carolina. Where's the cat? Frank, you're a cat man. I can't see that cat.
I am. I think I can see a tail. I think.
Anyway, we've got a bit off track, but about 17 years old. Oh, bless. Big up to you, and thank you for joining from South Carolina. But anyway, we will get into the show. We will have a little chat about obviously how it's going under Thomas Frank, whether we think there is some improvement after the 2 wins against Slavia Prague and against Brentford. But let's have a little look back at that Slavia Prague game first. In just 1 minute, Frank is just making a change on the technicality on the back end. But I'll get Bill's thoughts on that Slavia Prague game on in midweek. Bill, what did you think? Obviously, 3-0 win, convincing in some respects, but also 2 penalties and a very low, I'd say, quality of opposition. Did you see any improvements in that game or not?
I don't know if improvement is the right word. I definitely saw a different sort of change of approach. Like, it was much more. Do you know what it reminded me of? I was watching Ange last season or the season before. It was like very chaotic. It was like attacking. Wasn't much sort of any pragmatism in there at all. I went there on Tuesday, whatever it was, and I sat in the south stand, and I was thinking in that first half, they had about 5 or 6 chances in the 6-yard box. That if they had any decent finishes, it could have been a different game completely. But at the same time, it was like back and forth. We were actually going for it. So it was a much more entertaining game than we've been, the rubbish that we've been served up lately. And it was good to see a bit of attacking football back in display, taking shots. And I think we did have a bit of defensive vulnerability. And obviously, we didn't take any chances. I think after about 30 seconds, that Richarlison one where he smashed it, and then you think, how on earth has he missed that? But actually, I think in slow motion, it looks like a bit of a difficult chance. But and the keeper obviously he's just in the right place at the right time. And their keeper, I thought, had a really good game as well, to be fair. So it was a bit more entertaining, definitely more entertaining than the games we've had lately. So I was happy to see it. And at the end of the day, 3-0 in the Champions League, you can't complain, can you? Really?
Sure. Yeah. No. Absolutely. I think what I was getting at was more around like 2 penalties being 3 of those goals. However, like you said, it was
especially against they're. Let's be real, they're rubbish. They're an absolute rubbish.
That's my concern. Not to try and be negative, because actually we had a few comments, didn't we, last week, Frank, that we were too negative. Maybe that's why the numbers are going to be a little bit lower today, because we were too negative last week. But do you know what, guys? I'm going to always be real with you on this podcast. I'm not going to sugarcoat how I'm feeling about the club. And last week, I was bored of it. I was fed up. I was sick of it. I didn't want to go to the games. Listen, we have these moments as fans where we do fall in and out of love. Like, I'll always love Tottenham, but sometimes the motivation to go to the games and talk about it in a positive light is sometimes difficult when it is a negative time. But anyway, less of that. Let's hope this is going to be a more positive one today. Luckily, not massively, positive. We got to be real, haven't we, Frank? But Frank, I know you were at the game as well. Obviously, Sonny was there. Bill, that's probably half the reason why you went. That's probably half the reason I would have gone as well.
I'll be honest, mate. It's literally the only reason. I'm not even deadly serious. I got a ticket at 6 o'clock just because I thought I need to go and see this.
Yeah. It was a bit disappointing. He didn't even go around the pitch, did he? He didn't even clap around the pitch. He kind of just stood there and did a watered down version of what he'd already said.
I was hoping he would come on in the second half, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. That's a farewell, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, he might as well have come on. It was pretty much sealed and deal by 70, wasn't it? But anyway, Frank, mate, what did you make of the game? Just top liners, and what were your key takeaways?
I thought the first half was quite dull, to be honest. I was quite bored, and that feels like a common sort of theme throughout the season. I know we were 1-up and whatever with, again, a diabolical own goal, but we were in control, I think, but I don't think we looked. I'm not sure what the word is, but I don't think we looked like we were going to really hurt them. Maybe I thought the second half was better. I thought Kudus looked good in the second half. I thought Xavi Simons looked good in the second half, and I thought we flowed a bit better in the second half. All in all, do I think it was the best performance I've seen for a while? Probably not. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, they've won 3-0 in the Champions League, as Billy said, and we're in a pretty decent place. So in the Champions League, so all in all, I'm more than content. Yeah,
got it. Yeah, sure. I would agree. It was a boring first half. I was watching at home, and I was like, "Where's I'm a Celebrity? Get me out of here!" Like, I kind of wanted to turn over to that, but it's obviously already finished. But no, jokes aside, let's have a look at some of the player ratings from this game. This is according to FootMob, I believe, as always, isn't it, Frank? Yeah. And I think some of these are quite generous, if I'm being honest. And I'd probably say that, in my opinion, I don't know what you guys think, I would probably say Mo Kudus was our best player. I know some people think Simons, but personally, I thought that Kudus was the most impressive player and had the most impact. Perhaps you guys disagree. Bill, who would you put down as your sort of top 2 or 3 players, mate, and who stood out?
The standouts for me were Spence, Simons, and Kudus there, and Gray as well. I think those. I think Simons was really good, particularly in the second half. I think Spence has continued his form since the Brentford game, actually. I think he's looked really decent in left back in the last 2 games that we played. Kudus just was him and Xavi had a couple of showboat moments, and Kudus absolutely had the bit better of that. Of the left back at Slavia, and Simons obviously did well in the second half, and then I think those ratings are not necessarily. I think they've been a bit over generous, but that you sometimes get that with like if you do like the pass completion goes up massively, doesn't it, and stuff like that. But I thought Gray was also had a really good game as well. I think it's unlucky that to get a worse rating than Palhinha there, because I thought Gray was like really forward thinking and really trying to make things happen on the ball, and I actually kind of. Going a bit big picture thing here is I think we've looked a lot better since Gray has come into the team. So that was something I noticed. I would hope that he plays against Forest, because he just seems to have a bit more forward thinking than Palhinha and Bentancur. We can both be a bit pragmatic sometimes.
Yeah, interesting. I think Gray has done pretty well since he's come in. Obviously, he hasn't really got too many opportunities this season. Obviously, I remember him coming on against Bodo Glimt and doing really well. Yeah, I thought he did really well in that game. And I think he had a pretty good game against Burnley, I believe, one of the first games at home, if not the first game. Frank, do you agree with what Bill's saying here? Do you think we look a better team with Archie Gray in the midfield alongside Palhinha?
Totally. I mean, I think Gray and Spence, for me, were the standout two. I know Kudus and Simons, probably because of their impact, maybe up the other side of the pitch, were the main two that the papers will sell, but I think Gray and Spence were fantastic, actually. I thought Spence, like Billy said, was brilliant against Brentford, and I thought he continued that the other night. I think with Gray, I think the bit that kind of maybe frustrates me a little bit with the way he hasn't been playing as well, Gray, is I don't think Gray is any less really of a footballer than Palhinha or Bentancur, and I think that's kind of where the frustrations come in, that I don't mind if Gray plays and makes a mistake and we concede from it or whatever, because he's a young kid, he's learning. But I think that ceiling is so high that you'd be silly not to keep playing him and not to give him those chances, because I think, as Billy said and touched on, that he's more forward thinking. You feel like he's going to win it from deep, but you feel like he can progress you up the pitch as well, a little bit like you see with Adam Wharton at Palace and that sort of mould. So I think he has to play. Personally, certainly this weekend and going forward. I think certainly in games at home as well against slightly lesser opposition, he has to play.
Sure. No, absolutely. I agree. I thought he was impressive. And like I said, obviously I thought Kudus and Simons were the better players, but yeah, maybe I've overlooked that Archie Gray, was one of the better players as well. And like you said, Bill, I think Spence had a decent game as well. So yeah, it's good to see that some of the players that have been slightly quieter. I think it's fair to say, especially Simons in previous weeks hasn't really hit the ground running, but obviously had a good couple of games now. Excellent goal against Brentford, which I'm sure we haven't actually really talked about from pretty much the behind the halfway line, wasn't it? It was a crazy run. It was an amazing goal to get his first. Well, that was his first Spurs goal, wasn't it? Which is pretty good first goal to score. Bill, question for you: do you think Xavi Simons will have a bit of confidence? Obviously, one of them was a penalty against Slavia Prague, but with 2 goals in 2 games, do you think that we could really see him kick on from here and maybe make a big impact against Forest?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I hope so anyway. I really hope so, mate. I think the last couple of games are what we've been desperate to see since he signed, really. I know, it's a complicated question. He maybe hasn't been good enough when he started in the previous games, but also he hasn't really had much of a run in the team as well. I think he missed the last 4 games he's been on the bench. Then he obviously had a couple of good games against like Man United, Copenhagen, when they got benched. Now he's come in against Brentford, done really, really well, again, got a goal and assist, and then a goal. So the GA's coming up a little bit as well. But I think so. And I think really that's just what he's needed. He's needed like a run of games in the team. It's difficult when you first come over. I mean, you only have to look at Florian Wirtz, Bundesliga player of the season last year, and 125 million or whatever it is that he cost, and he hasn't scored any goals or assists in the Premier League or for Liverpool at all this season. So it's not easy, and I think that his constant confidence will be buzzing now. And he's just been on like the Wayne Rooney podcast. He's just putting out some content with Tottenham and Ledley King and stuff. I think he's really starting to find his feet at Tottenham, and hopefully all those little tiny things will add to confidence too. I think the only problem is, Forest are going to be quite a physical team. They've got obviously Gibbs, White, and Anderson in midfield, 2 really decent players there. It might be a game where he's going to find it difficult, but you just kind of hope that he can use a bit of magic to get away from those players.
Sure, yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that. And I did see I didn't see the bit on the Wayne Rooney podcast, but I saw the.
Oh mate, you should definitely check it out. It's a really good watch. It's filmed at Tottenham as well. It's on iPlayer on YouTube. Wayne Rooney podcast.
Nice.
The podcast is about one of the kids. It's talking about how his story of, he was saying that at 12 years old he had 2 million Instagram followers. Which is mad.
That's crazy, isn't it?
But it's a really good watch. I highly recommend it.
That is insane. It's got to be the most followed kid in the world, isn't it? That sort of caliber. But anyway, Frank, question for you. With the sort of, I guess you could call it the changing of the guard in terms of the Spurs poster boy. Obviously, Sonny coming back on Tuesday, and then obviously Simons putting in a decent performance again. Do you feel like this is the moment where now Simons can kick on and be that poster boy for Tottenham? Because at the moment, I feel like it's difficult to identify who that is. Some people might say it's Maddison when he's fully fit. Some people may say it's Kudus. Some people maybe say it's Simons. Some may say it's Van der Ven or Romero. What do you think? Do you think he can be our sort of main man for years to come?
I think so. I think a little bit like Florian Wirtz at Liverpool. I think eventually talent will kind of outdo most of else what you see, as long as you work hard, and he works hard enough as well. That's something that I'm really impressed with, is he works so hard that when you work that hard, your talent will naturally allow you to look a good footballer. And I think Wirtz is similar, that not to talk about him too much, but I think they're both technically unbelievably good players, and you can see that from watching a couple of minutes of them. And so I think it was only a matter of time before he started to find his feet, and I think he's doing that. I think in terms of him being a poster boy, I mean, we certainly don't have one, which we've probably always had, and I think there's a gap for that. I think he's making an effort to make himself loved, which I think is great, and I think and will benefit him in the long term.
Did you guys see his picture in the Bale shirt? And he posted a picture in the Bale shirt. Class.
It's brilliant, and I think it's really nice to see that someone is adapting to the culture of being somewhere and wanting to really be a part of it. And so yeah, I think he's someone that could end up being a superstar. I really, really do. I think he's an unbelievable talent, and I think we're very lucky to have him. But that obviously needs to continue, and we need to see more. It's obviously early to say, but at the moment, I think there's certainly potential for him to be that. And I think the kind of way I look at it is, and maybe this was just me, but in the summer when we signed him, it's probably the most excited I've been for a signing, probably since James Maddison, I'd argue. And before that, I mean, I don't know how far back I go before I'm like, I was genuinely so excited when we signed them. I think he's someone that has the ability to get you off your seat. I mean, me and you spoke about this yesterday, James, that I said that I watched City the other night against Madrid, and it was a joy to watch Cherki and Doku. And as much as I like Cherki and Doku, the level feels like it has dropped a little bit from when you're watching Messi in his prime and these guys. But it's nice to see some of these guys that make you go, they're going to get me off my seat. And with Kudus, with him, with Tel and Odobert as well, and I include the pair of those in this, I think we have potential for players to get you off your seat and excite you. And that's something that's quite exciting going forward, given that they're all young and all have sort of a long way ahead of them. That's quite exciting. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Yeah, interesting. I think you're right. We obviously look to those players that can sort of make a massive impact and get you off your seat. And that is the likes of a Simons and a Kudus. So hopefully they kick on and their form sort of continues on the upwards trajectory, because that'd be lovely to see. We've already got a comment about our positivity this week, as I said earlier. Even in all, Frank, you're definitely more positive this week after a good couple of performances. Like I keep saying, believe in the process. Hope you're well, Ad. Hope you're doing well, mate. We were a bit negative last week. We got quite a few pelters on YouTube saying we are too negative. So, we've put on our happy mask today, and that we don't need to. We are.
Sorry, just very quickly regarding that as well. I want to kind of say that I thought the Slavia Prague game was all right. I thought it was decent. I thought the Brentford game was a massive improvement from what we've seen. But I still think that should be the bare minimum for games at home against lower opposition. Like, I thought we were good, we were better, but that isn't an elite level performance. We were better, and that's good. But then I've got to see that every time when we play the Wolves at home and the Fulhams at home and the Villas at home, all those games we've lost this season, you've got to be doing the same week in, week out. And so I'm pleased at the moment, but then also my only other slight concern is, have we only really played well because it's a team that maybe he knows better than anyone else?
Yeah.
And I think we'll know.
I think we'll know a lot after the next 2 games, won't we? Forest
Agreed.
and Liverpool. That's 2 massive tests, man. We could be looking at 6 points and being flying, or could easily get 2 losses and then everyone's frank out again. So who knows?
I
agree, though, man. Brentford is, we have to be beating Brentford under any, no matter who is our manager.
Agree. I think ultimately as well with Frank, I think something that could happen, and this wouldn't shock me at all, is if it just clicks after a while. It happened at Brentford where he started slowly. It happened. I can't remember where it was. He was before
Bromby,
Denmark. Bromby, that was it. Yeah, and he started slowly. It wouldn't shock me if, like, come the start of January, it just clicked and we went on a run. And I could see that happening. So at the moment, I'm sort of skeptical to be like, oh, this has to change, or this is whatever, being too certain on one thing. So I think this could click after a while.
Hopefully, let's see, guys. We've talked a bit about how we're going to get on at Forest. We'll focus in more depth on that in just 1 second. Let's have a look at how the Champions League group is shaping up now, because obviously we haven't done too bad in the Champions League. Like 6 games played, 3 wins, two draws, and only 1 loss, which was obviously against PSG. 13-7 goal difference, and obviously 5 of those 7 coming against PSG, which is kind of crazy. So we only actually conceded 2 goals in 5 Champions League games, which is actually really impressive. A +6 goal difference. We're sitting on 11 points, 7 points off the top. We don't talk about who's top. Frank, you were meant to cut them off. But it's kind of crazy. Obviously, only 2 points off of third in PSG. But obviously, also, like, the gap between 11th and 21st, I believe, is only like something silly, like 2 or 3 points. Just going to confirm that. Yeah, so from 11th to 21st is PSV, and they're on 8 points. So it's only 3 points difference. But Frank was saying, and I'll let you take the lead on this, Frank, that actually we only need to beat Dortmund to guarantee at least a playoff spot. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've got to win one of the next 2, which are Dortmund at home and Frankfurt away, who I think Frankfurt are like right down the bottom somewhere, I want to say. I know they've had a really rough time. Conceded 5 to Liverpool in their sort of right in the midst of their issues as well. So I think they're certainly beatable. And we went there and won last year, and they're quite clearly weaker than they were then. So I think it's important we win one of those 2. If we win them both, if we finish on 17 points and don't finish in the top 8, you can't really argue with it. It's like they've given it a good go, certainly. I think if they finish on 17 points, they will probably just about finish in the top 8, which would be an amazing achievement and something that will be massive, because those 2 extra games in January make a difference. They really do. And they stop you from being able to give the FA Cup a decent go as well, because you have so many games. And so I think if we get through into the top 8, they can give the FA Cup a decent go as well, which is obviously positive. I know we've got Villa, which isn't easy, but they can give it a proper go. And so hopefully there's sort of then a bit of excitement that comes with the second half of the season. So it's important that they get into that top 8, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure, mate. It'll be some achievement. I think my prediction would be that we're probably going to finish in the playoff spaces, which in some respects is actually not too bad either, really. Thinking about it, coming up to the Champions League is no easy feat. And I think, would you take that, Bill, if we got into the playoff places? Or are you like Frank, like saying, if we win the next 2 and don't get in, that's nothing we can do about that. But if we got to the top 8, how amazing would that be? Obviously, kind of a stupid question, but like, do you think it's really key we get the top 8 so we don't have to play those playoff 2 matches?
Do you know what I did think that I thought it was really important to get the top 8, just because last season Real Madrid and Man City and PSG were all in the playoffs. So obviously would be a nightmare getting a team of that kind of caliber. But I was having a look if it finished now, like some of the teams that we could get, I wasn't like massively worried about if we did get them in the playoffs. So yeah, I just think that the important thing is to get through to that round of 16 would be class. Be really big for the club there. And then obviously when you're in the knockout Champions League, anything can happen. So it's just really important to get there. I kind of feel like I think we have to win both of them to get into the top 8, obviously. I think unless we massively improve, I can't see us getting 6 points. I can imagine 4 points being quite more realistic. I don't know, that Dortmund at home game scares me because we've been, when we play teams like Chelsea, for example, at home, we look dreadful. When we played Arsenal, Dortmund are 3rd in Bundesliga. They're above us in the Champions League table. I know they had a poor result against Bodo at the weekend, but so did in midweek, but so did we. So that's the game. I think I'm not too worried about Frankfurt. I think we'll beat them because obviously we beat them last season. They've lost a couple of players since then as well. So they lost Ekatike since then as well. So I'm not worried about that one. It's just Dortmund at home. I think we'd have to be at our very best to beat them. But apparently my mate was also saying they picked up a couple of injuries in the last game against Bodo. So who knows? But it'd be massive to finish in top 8. And when you think about it, like literally, that's like essentially being among the best 8 teams in Europe. That's pretty big considering we came through the back door to get in the Champions League in the first place.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, absolutely. I think also with Dortmund is going to be really interesting, and I'm actually really looking forward to doing sort of the analysis on that game because they play like a 3/5 at the back. So it's going to be interesting how we set up against them because will Frank change it? Will he match that? It'd be interesting to see. Like they're actually a really interesting team, Dortmund. And
yeah, I was looking at their team. Obviously keeping an eye on them midweek, and I remember when I was growing up, man, they were always everyone's FIFA team. You know when you had like Royce, Bajikowski, yeah, man, unbelievable. Yeah. I was looking at their team. I don't really recognize any of their players, which doesn't mean they're rubbish. It just means I'm not really familiar with them. But I know they've got Brand scored for them at midweek, didn't he? I do know, but
twice.
They don't have the stars that they used to have. A few years ago. Like they're not a star power team anymore. But they do have Garassi, who's a good striker. I wanted Tottenham to sign a couple of years ago, but I remember they're not quite the same as like when they had Royce going for titles every year. They've fallen down a little bit since then, so it'd be an interesting game. But I think we'd have to be at our real best to beat them, to be honest.
Yeah,
we have a good record against Dortmund, don't we, as well? So who knows?
Yeah. Obviously, I remember being at the one at Wembley when Vertonghen had like a 10 out of 10 game.
Unbelievable.
That's crazy.
That what a goal that was.
And that one. We had some good ones at Wembley, actually. But yeah, they've got some good players. Obviously, Joe Bellingham has been a bit of a controversial one. Sort of started all right, then he tailed off. Then he was getting sort of pelters and always getting compared to obviously Jude, which is crazy. You got Nemeka in there. You've got Brandt, as you pointed out, he scored twice. Schlotterbeck's a decent player, and they've got players that didn't even play much in midweek. I think they actually rested some, maybe underestimated Bodo Glimt. They have Emre Can on the bench. Adeyemi, who's a fantastic player.
So this is probably why I didn't recognise any of their players. I didn't realise they rested them all. Yeah, I only looked at the starting 11.
Chukwuemeka is quite a good player. Pascal Gross, who used to play for Brighton as well, very good technical player. And like you said, Guirassy, Svensson, Ryerson. So they got some good players. I don't think they played their best team on in the midweek. So interesting. Frank, anything to add on sort of looking ahead with Dortmund, and then we'll go into talking more about the Forest game, mate?
I mean, I think the way I look at it is that whilst they're a good sides, if you could have asked me for any pot 1 team at home, they would have probably, as much as a fan, I want to go and see us play Real Madrid or whatever, in terms of beatable sides in pot 1, that they were certainly one of the more beatable sides. So if you want to finish in the top 8, I think you've probably got to be looking to win by all 4 of your home games as a sort of the flat out first thing you got to do. And we've started that really well. We're doing very well. But if they continue that, I think both the games we have left are certainly winnable. They're not easy, of course, but they're certainly both winnable. And it's not like I'd be a lot less confident if we were going into this with Madrid and Barcelona or whatever. I know it sounds obvious, but these are certainly games that Spurs can get at and can win. And it wouldn't shock me if they win them both. But knowing Tottenham, would it be a shock if we lose them both?
Don't you've already been told you're being more positive today, according to Ad.
I think
Logan, I missed your message earlier. Sorry, Bill, go on.
I think we'll look back at that Bodo draw away as a bit of a horrible result, really, man. If we'd have won that,
agreed.
We'd be looking for such a good position now. We could probably get 4 points at the next 2 and be guaranteed top 8. But the Bodo and Monaco games were a bit of a letdown, which we might look to regret.
Saying that, the Monaco game we probably should have lost. I mean,
they battered us.
was on absolute something else that day. Well, which one goes? Yeah, this was about Kudus. Said, I do agree, James. To be fair, he's been outstanding for us. Just needs to look up a bit more when running with the ball. I completely agree. His output hasn't been fantastic, but him on the ball and beating players, he skinned. I'd love to see his jewels in that match. I'm pretty sure he beat his man about 8 times. Like genuinely, it was crazy. Maybe more. But it seemed like he was sort of that's probably why I thought he was the best player, because those players, like you were saying, Frank, they're so exciting to watch. And when they beat their man, obviously it's disappointing when they don't put in a good delivery or a shot. But, it's good from Kudus. He just needs to improve that output, I think. Bill, do you agree with that?
Yeah, completely. And I just That's the kind of player I want to watch. That's the kind of player that I'll pay money to see. Someone who tries to make things happen. Obviously, he did get the penalty, and he gets. He's done all right, hasn't he? He's got I think he's the top assister in the league of 5 assists, and he scored against Fulham and he scored yesterday. But it just feels like he can do more, just because how impactful that he is. So I think he's doing absolutely fine in terms of output, but it feels like he can do more just because he seems to beat his man all the time. But it's just what he does when he beats him is the next thing, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We've got Chandy418 in the chat. Big up, Chandy. You're always in here. Really appreciate you joining. He or she says, good morning from California, COYS. Big up from California. What's the time there? What, about 10 a.m., 11 a.m.? Maybe earlier. 8-hour difference, is it? I don't know. My geography it should be better considering I studied it. I want camera close-ups of Marinakis' fuming face when Simons scores the winner this weekend. Yeah, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it, mate. Okay, let's have a quick look at the Forest game for the last 10 or so minutes. This is the last 6 matches head-to-head. So in 2022, Forest beat us 2-0. Who would that have been under? Conte, I want to say.
What one? Sorry, the cut one, the bottom.
EFL.
Yeah, that was Conte. Yeah.
Then beat them 3-1 at home in 2023. We then beat them 2-0 away in 2023, which would have been the first year under Ange.
So that game, that Forest game, the 2-0 win away, that was the one where I remember really kind of believing that we were going to be pretty decent under Ange, because we'd had a bit of a rough trot. It was after the Chelsea game where we'd had those 5 games where we got 1 point or whatever. And I remember that at the time seemed like it was going to be tough anyway. And we went there and we weren't incredible, but I think Kudus scored, Kudus and Richarlison, and we kind of just put them to bed.
That when Richarlison got hacked down, wasn't it? I think when he was doing a keepy-uppy.
Yeah, it might well have been.
Yates was all over us.
Yeah, I can't stand Yates. Every time we play him.
Basuma got sent off. I don't remember.
Yes, he did. That was on Yates, I think.
Yeah, maybe a retaliation if I remember. Tottenham then beat Forest 3-1 in 2024. None of these games seem that memorable. I was going to say,
I cannot remember any single one of these games. Not going to lie.
Terrible, isn't it? I don't know what's going on.
The 3-1 in 24 was the Mickey van der Ven goal.
Oh, was it?
Hit it from the edge of the area, I think.
Oh, yeah. I was at that one for that one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And then Chris Wood scored for them.
Yeah.
Murillo own goal.
I don't remember either the 2 from last season, to be honest, at all.
Say again, mate.
I don't remember either the 2 from last season at all. The 1-0 and the 2-1.
Yeah, the 1-0. The 1-0 was on Boxing Day, and it was a Lalanga 1-0 and Jed Spence red card.
Yeah.
And then the 2-1 loss. I guess that was just when we were all guns blazing in the Europa League only. And
I can't remember any of these games against Forest.
I remember the 2-1 loss. I remember going to, and I missed my train. And by the time I got into the ground, we were 2-0 down already. It was only like 10
Monday night game, was it? Jesus,
yeah.
I can't remember those at all.
That was rough.
We blanked out last season, haven't we? I think I cannot remember either.
Yeah, I think so.
we really had gaps in the memory. Okay, so that was, what do we take from that? We take from that actually we haven't been amazing against Forest. Obviously, last 2 matches have been a loss. The 2 before that were wins, or 3 before that were wins, and then the 1 before that was a loss. So actually, in the last 6 matches, there's been 0 draws, 3 wins for Forest, and 3 wins for Spurs. I mean, it doesn't get much more even than that. Although obviously 2 losses in our last 2. This is how FootMob think we'll line up. Goes to Bill on this one. Bill, what do you reckon, mate? I think there might be a few differences there. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think you can, Frank's rotated quite heavily this season. You can never, I don't really ever feel confident, predicting his lineups, to be honest. I think he chops and changes quite a lot. I think he might have started to settle on a team a bit more since the Newcastle game, maybe. You know what? I'd like to see Tell start on the left. I think he's deserving of that. I thought he had a bit of an impact when he came on against Newcastle, then didn't get a single minute against Brentford, which I thought was unfair, then did all right again midweek as well. So yeah, I find it really difficult to predict Frank, to be honest, mate. I just hope that Xavi is playing. That's all at the moment I really care about, is that I just want Xavi Simons to be playing every game.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to get him more settled in. Frank, go to you, mate. Same question. What do you reckon as Billy's saying, it's so hard to predict with Thomas Frank. What do you reckon the 11 will be, mate?
I would like to see, again, the same. I'd like to see Matty's Tell given a bit more of a chance. I want to see Moani play with those three and Kudus, Simons and Tell behind him for a bit, because I don't think we've really seen that. And I think that's probably the most dynamic front four we have.
Same here.
And that would quite excite me, I think. And I know Richardson's been scoring some goals, but I personally would like to see that. I hope Gray starts, but I also, and he's not going to play them both together, but I would like to see Bergvall at some point, because I feel like his minutes have been too low for a player of his quality. And when he has played, like when he came on in the week, he played on the right and feels like he's kind of been shoehorned in a little bit at points. And I want to see him get a bit of a run, because I think he's too good of a player to not be playing.
Yeah, question on Bergvall. I actually wanted to bring it up. Why do you think he has got little game time, and why do you think Frank at the moment prefers Archie Gray? Because I'm not saying Archie Gray's been bad, as we've been saying. He's actually been really good, but I actually think Bergvall's a better player overall than Archie Gray personally. I think Bergvall's ceiling is a lot higher, and I think he'll probably go on to a much bigger club in a couple of years, to be honest, because I think that's how good this guy is. Why do you think, I'll go to Bill on this one, why do you think Bergvall hasn't got much game time in the last few games, Bill?
I think Frank is not 100% sure how he profiles Bergvall at this current time. I think he tends to play him in the 10 a little bit. And we saw him play there ahead of Xavi Simons in the games before, the Newcastle game, etc. And I just wonder if he, now that Simons is obviously coming into form, he's been dropped there, and then it's kind of a race out of him and Gray. I'm not sure Frank has discovered his best position yet. I'd quite like to see, again, maybe not this particular game or the Liverpool game, but maybe a game like Brentford at home, our next home team that we should be beating. I'd quite like to see him and Bergvall starting, him and Gray starting midfield together. I think that'd be quite good, because I don't think you always have to be playing a Palhinha or a Bentancur every game. Like, sometimes I'd like to throw a bit more caution to the wind and just go ultra attacking with Bergvall, Gray and Simons in midfield. I think that would look decent. Just get players on the ball that want to do things. And I'm not entirely sure that Frank has profiled Bergvall or is sure of Bergvall's profile, because I think when he does play him, it sometimes be in the 10. I personally don't think that's his best position. I think he's much more better deeper, personally. Yeah,
I think he's more of a box-to-box sort of an 8. I agree with that. Frank, anything to add on Bergvall? Do you agree with Bill? You think he just doesn't know where to play Bergvall at the moment, Frank?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a sort of a lack of trust, not in him, so to speak, but I don't think he's willing to start. As much as Simons works hard, he's not a third midfielder. He is an attacking player. Whereas James Maddison or Kulusevski, more so James Maddison, if you needed Maddison to almost drop in as a 6, he could do that job easily. Because that is kind of, he's so comfortable doing that. He's a proper midfielder. And because Simons isn't, and he can work hard and he can drop out, but he's not that sort of player, I don't think given that Bergvall likes to get around and he's constantly running and in different areas, I think there's a fear that you are going to just isolate whoever else is in midfield with him. And so I think that's why Bergvall's played a little bit more as a 10, which I don't think he is a 10 by any means.
On that, I don't disagree with you, but do you not think that's more of a reason to play Bergvall? I'll tell you why. Because if you're going to play Simons in the 10, and then you're going to play Palhinha, right, as your monster 6, that's why we sort of signed him. Palhinha has the ability to play in front of the defence on his own as that anchor man and allow the other two to essentially get forward, one more so than the other. I would love to see how Palhinha, Bergvall in front, and then Simons in front of that would get on. Do you not agree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the one thing that could sort of change this is that they've started using that sort of the 3-2 build-up thing again, where they have one of the fullbacks comes in or holding midfielder comes in or whatever, and so one of the fullbacks is constantly high, which is usually they switched the other day. It was Spence who started almost playing as a centre forward at points the other day. And so I think if you're playing teams that are smaller and are going to sit in a little bit more, you can play with almost Gray, Bergvall and Simons, because you're playing in that way now that you're probably always going to have 3, if not 4 back. And so I think you can be a little bit more comfortable in doing that. And I think Gray is capable enough of playing that role because he is a little bit more, I mean, he's played as a centre-half, a left-back, a right-back. He's more of a defensive-minded midfielder than anything. So I think that could happen, but I think in certain games like Sunday, I don't see a world where he'd start them both together. I think against PSG he did, because they have a young midfield and one that runs around a lot, and I think starting Sarr, Bergvall and Gray together works because they are full of energy. But I think in certain games it doesn't. I'd like to see him do it, but I don't think he will. And I kind of get it at the moment, but they need to find a way to incorporate him into this more, because I think you've got too good of a player who I think you will lose, because if he doesn't play games, he will end up getting the ump.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to mess around with, you don't want to upset essentially your best wonder kid you have in your squad. In my opinion, by quite a long shot. I think Bergvall is absolutely exceptional, and has a very, very high ceiling. Ad said, James, in my opinion, João Palhinha is the first on that team sheet. Frank, I'm going to expose you a bit in that now after a phone call we had the other day about Palhinha, because you said you were getting a bit bored and sick of him. Sorry to completely sort of out our private conversation on a podcast with many people watching, but like, what is it fair to say that you'd still start Palhinha, or do you not think that he should be a guaranteed starter? Because
I think ultimately it depends on the game. I mean, when we bought him, I thought, with the intention of playing big away games and tough sort of teams. And yet he started at home to Slavia Prague, didn't start away at PSG, didn't start away at Newcastle. And so I'm a little bit confused. I think the idea of where these games he should be playing is a little bit skewed.
Yeah,
I think more kind of the point of being bored of him is kind of, I think we're talking at the point again where I say about Cherki and Doku, and he's one of those players. He's a brilliant tackler and whatever, and I'm not asking my holding midfielder to be, getting me off my seat. But I watch Gray, and I have, maybe because he's a little bit younger, and I see a ceiling, but a high ceiling. But I watch him and I feel excited because I think there's a future there, and I think that we've got a player that we're lucky to have. I just find players like Palhinha a bit dull.
And certainly, almost.
Yeah, certainly when we play games at home to Slavia Prague and whatever, I don't think those are the games that he should be playing. I don't have an issue with him playing at all in big derby games or anything, because I think he has parts to his game that no one else in that squad has. And so I think parts of him are certainly beneficial. But I'm a little bit confused when he's not playing away at Newcastle or away at PSG or some of these games where I thought it's kind of the reason we signed him.
Sure. No, absolutely. Yeah, I kind of baited your one-liner there a little bit and tried to spice it up. Didn't really work. Listen, we'll go on to very quickly talking about Forest's expected lineup, because as we were discussing backstage, Murillo is back in the fold. Did play 70 minutes away at, who is it? They played in midweek, a Dutch team. I've completely forgotten who it was. Utrecht, that's it. I knew it was a Dutch team. But this is what FootMob has predicted. I won't spend too long on this, guys, conscious of time. Bill, I'll go to you on this one. You mentioned earlier about Elliot Anderson and Gibbs White and having powerful midfielders. Who do you think there, if that was their starting 11, maybe they'll play Murillo, is the biggest sort of threat that could cause us some real issues?
I think the midfield of Anderson, Gibbs White is strong. I don't know much about Sangaré, to be honest with you, but I think I think the other two are absolute class. I think Gibbs White, obviously, it's a big game for him after what happened in the summer. He's going to be motivated. Crowd are also going to be motivated. And Igor Jesus is starting to bang in a few goals as well. So don't think it's going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that, Anderson and Gibbs White are two players I would absolutely love to sign at Tottenham. I'd still door wide open for Gibbs White if he decided to join, just because I can see the vision. If you add him to our midfield, I think it'd be absolutely class.
Absolutely. Almost links to our discussion we just had there about our midfield, Bill. Frank, going to you, mate, on that lineup. Anything to add? Anderson, Gibbs White, the two key threats for you, or you pointing out anyone else from that lineup?
Yeah. No, I think so. I mean, Dan and Doy is quite exciting. And Savona, as a right back, who's only sort of come into the fold a little bit recently, has started to look quite exciting. Scored at Anfield the other day. So they've got good players. I think, if anything, can I say about Gray and Bergvall and all these guys and whatever, the only one we haven't mentioned, or one of the few we haven't mentioned, that I think will actually have, it's the sort of game that I think suits him, is Bentancur this weekend.
Yeah.
I think Bentancur, I always thought he was a player that suited when we had a lot of the ball, and I don't think that's what he is. I think I've probably misprofiled him for a while. The best I've seen him play this season was at Everton, when the game got really scrappy, and he's someone that has a bit of control and he has a bit of class when one-touch football and stuff. And I think in a game like this that could be really scrappy, I imagine the weather's going to be horrible. You've got Gibbs White, Sangaré and Elliot Anderson on you all the time. he's a player that can play at one touch and whatever. And I think his little bit of class will probably be the difference in the midfield. So whilst he works hard, hopefully. So I think it could be the sort of game that he ends up coming out of this and we go, he's played well. I think it suits him. So I would start him. It wouldn't shock me if we see both him and Palhinha start on Sunday, because it's a game that the midfield are going to be, they're going to be on him, and it's going to be a concern.
Yeah, absolutely, guys in the chat watching, do you guys think it is a very much a midfield battle on Sunday? As you said, the weather looks like it's going to be 10 degrees and cloudy, so not much rain. A bit of a weather update as well there. Look, you get everything here at SpursRelated. Little Premier League table update. Obviously, we're sitting in 11th, but it is very close between 11th and 5th. Only 3 points, which is kind of mad. But actually, if you look lower, there's probably only about 3 points between 11th and about 15th and 16th. So actually, it's so close. It's almost like the Championship this year in terms of how close it is from top to bottom. Bill, where do you reckon we're going to be at the end of the season? I'm not going to ask you for that yet, but where do you think we're going to be at the end of the year, mate, considering we've got Forest and Liverpool in the league to come?
It's I think whatever happens in the next 2 games is a real indicator of how far we're going to be this season, because they're proper tests. I think if Brentford at home, it's difficult to gauge how much impact that game is going to have on the rest of our season, just because Brentford were absolutely shocking. Obviously, it was a good performance though, so I'd love to get 4 points. 6 points would obviously be an absolute dream. I just worry. I don't know if we've got the mentality to beat someone like Liverpool at the moment. We've seen in the big games this season, other than the Man City one, which was away, we haven't turned up against Chelsea and Arsenal. So I question whether we can actually turn up on the day and beat Liverpool. So I think we'll get 4 points in the next 2, which would be pretty decent. I have a feeling we'll win this weekend, and then maybe draw against Liverpool, or maybe even lose against Liverpool. But I think we'll beat Forest.
Interesting, mate. Interesting. Guys, I'm going to get your score predictions in the chat. Bill's, led me straight down the score predictions tunnel. Frank, I'm going to get yours as well in a minute. But guys, in the chat, make sure if you're watching offline as well, or maybe you're watching live, whack it in the comment section below, and we'll get your score predictions up. As I said last week, I don't think anyone got the score prediction right against Brentford with a scorer. But if you do, next episode, I'll provide some sort of incentive or prize if you get the scorer right, one of the scorers and the score. But Frank, I'm going to turn to you, then I'll get Bill's solid score prediction for the Forest match. Frank, what do you reckon the score will be on Sunday?
I think we'll win it, actually. I think 2-0 Tottenham, but I think one of the centre halves are going to score, maybe both of them. It feels like it's going to be a set piece type of game, like the Everton one was. That it's going to be quite a battle, but no, I quite fancy us this weekend.
Interesting stuff. 2-0 for Frank, for Thomas Frank's team. Bill, what do you reckon, mate?
Not far off, mate. I think 2-1 Tottenham. I think we'll win. Won't be easy, but I just fancy us away against Forest. I think they had a really poor result against Everton at the weekend, didn't they? So, and obviously they've had to travel away Thursday night, which I think will help us. So, I think we'll beat them 2-1. Good
point about the travelling. 2-1 seems to be the general consensus in the chat. Stefan Everington, who must be related to Matthew Everington. I ask you every time, you never tell me. You leave me hanging on this one. You must be related to that fantastic winger in Matthew Everington. Bill, I'm sure you remember him. He's gone for 2-1 Spurs. Chandy's gone for 2-1 Spurs as well. Richie and Xavi calling out Archie for man of the match as well. That's a bold prediction. I think that's double brownie points if you get that one right. I'm actually going for a 2-1 win as well, not to follow the crowd like a sheep, but I think we will concede. But I see us just edging this one. I think the midfield battle is super, super important. I'm hoping that Xavi's going to not get sort of drowned out in this game, and I think it's a big game for us to kick on. It's actually arguably our most important Premier League game, because if we, imagine we lose and then it goes negative again, then we lose at home just before Christmas.
Yeah, it could be.
Thomas Frank pressure comes back, doesn't it? So maybe it's not the most important game, but it's certainly a very important match at this time of the season. Guys, if you're watching on repeat and you're watching live, please do me 3 massive favors. Hit the like button, turn on the notification bell. The like button is free, the notification bell is free, and the subscription button is free. If you could do me all 3 of those favors, I'd massively appreciate it. Before we wrap up, just a quick bit of news about Dominic Solanke. Some good news that he Thomas Frank has confirmed that he is back working on the grass individually and says, I guess it is good news when he posts that on social media. As I said with Dom, because it is an injury that he picked up in July, it's dragged on for a while. And obviously he posted on social earlier a little timer with him hopefully obviously coming back and hinting that he's coming back very soon. So hopefully we see him maybe by early January. Let's see. But that's all we got time for, guys. Hope you have enjoyed this episode. As I said a minute ago, please hit the like button, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. Also, please go and check out Billy T on Twitter. Bill, is it at Billy T?
Yeah, there's a bit of an underscore in there, but yeah, Billy_T.
There you go, guys. Please do go and check out Billy T. I'm surprised if you haven't. He's got so many followers over there, but please do check him out if you haven't already. You got a banger tweet the other day, Bill. What was it? It's something about the Carragher rant.
Oh yeah, mate. Yeah, it was about Maddison, mate. I love seeing Maddison during that 8 minutes just sitting there. That was what it was about.
Yeah. And it's the guy that doing the modelling, like just standing there for 8 years. But anyway, guys, please do hit the like button, notifications on, subscribe if you're new, and remember, as always, come on, you Spurs. Come on.